Have you ever found something so small, so out of place, that it unravels your entire world? For me, it wasn't a receipt in a pocket or a strange number on a phone bill. It was a single strand of hair. Long, blonde, shimmering under the dome light of my car, coiled on the passenger seat like a tiny golden snake. My wife Clara has a pixie cut, a sharp, dark bob she's maintained for the decade we've been together. I stared at that hair, the hum of the engine, the only sound in our quiet Chicago garage, and I felt the first cold drop of a storm I never saw coming. That single strand told me a story my own wife wouldn't, and I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that I was going to find the ending to it. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel, tell us where you're from, and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. It started subtly. A few months before the hair, Clara had become distant. We used to be the couple that talked, that shared every mundane detail of our days over dinner. Now, her phone was a permanent fixture in her hand, angled away from me. "It's just work, honey," she'd say, her thumb tapping furiously. The excuses were always plausible. Late nights at the law firm where she was a junior partner, weekend retreats for team building. I was proud of her ambition. I supported it. I cooked, I cleaned, I managed our lives so she could chase her dream. I was the stable foundation, the bedrock she could build her empire on. I just never imagined she was building it with someone else. The first real crack in the facade was a dinner party at our friend's place. She was across the room laughing, but it wasn't her usual laugh. It was a performance, a little too loud, a little too bright. Her eyes kept darting to one man, Marcus, a slick real estate developer, with a predatory smile and a watch worth more than my car. I saw the way he looked at her, a silent, possessive gaze that made the hairs on my arms stand up. I dismissed it. I was being paranoid, insecure. Clara loved me. But the seed of doubt was planted. Then came the small discoveries. A credit card statement with a charge for a ridiculously expensive dinner at a place on Rush Street I'd never been to. "Oh, that was a client meeting," she'd explained, not even looking up from her laptop. A new, lacy lingerie set tucked away in the back of her drawer, a style she never wore. "I wanted to surprise you," she'd murmured, but the surprise never came. The lies were getting sloppier, the excuses thinner. She was becoming a stranger in our own home, a ghost haunting the hallways of our marriage. She grew cold, manipulative. Any question I asked was met with a counter-accusation. "Why are you so controlling? Don't you trust me?" She weaponized my love, turning my concern into a character flaw. The villains, Clara and Marcus, felt untouchable, wrapped in a bubble of arrogance and deceit, laughing at the fool who paid their mortgage. The breaking point came on our anniversary. I'd booked a table at our favorite Italian restaurant, the one where I proposed. I waited for 2 hours. She never showed. I called her phone a dozen times. Straight to voicemail. Finally, a text message blinked onto my screen. "So sorry, swamped at work, Raincheck." I sat there in that booth, a single untouched glass of wine on the table, and I shattered. The humiliation was a physical weight, crushing the air from my lungs. I drove home through the rain-slicked Chicago streets, the city lights blurring through my tears. I walked into our dark apartment, and I knew. I just knew. Her car wasn't in the garage. I used the tracking app on our family plan, my hand shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Her car was parked near a boutique hotel in the Gold Coast. Marcus's firm had just developed that property. It all clicked into place. The lies, the secrets, the long blonde hair. It was his. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark, the broken pieces of my heart turning into something sharp, something hard. The grief was still there, a howling abyss in my chest, but beneath it, a new feeling began to smolder. Rage, cold, clear, and absolute. My loyalty had been a joke, my love a convenience. Fine. If she wanted to play a game, I would write the rules. The next morning, when she came home with a flimsy story about a sick colleague, I smiled. "I'm glad you're okay, honey." I was worried. It was the first strategic lie I ever told her, and it felt like putting on a suit of armor. My revenge would not be a screaming match. It would be a quiet, systematic demolition. I was a high school history teacher, a man of books and patience. I started gathering proof. I installed a keylogger on our home computer. I recovered deleted texts and emails, conversations so graphic and intimate they made me physically ill. They mocked me, my job, my quiet life. They called me Mr. Predictable. I saved every word. I hired a private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop, who documented their lunch dates that turned into afternoon check-ins at luxury hotels. He got photos, crystal clear photos of them kissing in a parking garage, walking into a hotel lobby holding hands. Each picture was a nail in her coffin. The final piece of the puzzle was financial. Clara handled our finances, and I trusted her completely. I started digging. She had been siphoning money from our joint savings account into a private one for months, tens of thousands of dollars. She was building a nest egg to leave me, with Marcus. The lawyer I hired, a shark named Mr. Davies, laid out the plan. In Illinois, infidelity impacts alimony. Her documented affair and the hidden assets were a legal goldmine. Set the trap. The day of the public exposure was Clara's big day. She was being honored at a major legal association banquet. She was set to receive a Rising Star in Law award. It was her crowning achievement. She stood at the podium in a glittering dress, smiling for the cameras, the picture of success. Marcus was in the audience, beaming at her from a front row table. I was there too, in the back, a ghost at the feast. As she began her acceptance speech, thanking her mentors and colleagues, the large screens on either side of the stage meant to be showing a professional headshot flickered, and then it began. A slideshow. The first image was a photo of her and Marcus kissing in his car. The room fell silent. Then, a text message, blown up for all to see. Tired of playing house with Mr. Predictable? Can't wait to be with you. More photos. The hotel receipts. Bank statements from her secret account. It was a meticulous, undeniable timeline of her betrayal. The silence in that ballroom was absolute. Clara stood frozen at the podium, her face a mask of horror. Her perfect world was burning down around her, and I had lit the match. People started whispering, then talking. Phones came out, recording her humiliation. Marcus had shrunk in his chair, his smug face pale and sweaty. He tried to slip out, but the cameras followed him. Clara's boss, the senior partner at her firm, stood up and walked out without a word. Her career was over before the last slide even faded from the screen. She stumbled off the stage, her name being whispered like a curse. I didn't stay to watch the fallout. I just walked out into the cool night air, feeling nothing but a vast, cold emptiness. The fire of my rage had burned itself out, leaving only ash. The divorce was brutal and swift. She lost everything. Her job, her reputation, her claim to our assets. The prenup I had insisted on, the one she'd called unromantic, held up in court, reinforced by the mountain of evidence of her adultery and financial misconduct. Marcus, facing a lawsuit from his own wife, who had been anonymously tipped off with a similar package of evidence, cut her loose immediately. She was a pariah. The last I heard, she was working as a paralegal in a small suburban firm, living in a tiny apartment she could barely afford. She had flown so close to the sun, and I had made sure she fell. Sometimes I still think about that single strand of hair, how something so insignificant could detonate a life. I won. I got my revenge. She was destroyed, just as I had planned. But there are no victory parades for this kind of war. There are only survivors. And as I stand here in the quiet of my own home, the home I fought to keep, I know the truth. I burned her world down, but I'm the one who has to live in the ruins. The end.